15,
Phase.
14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence start. Launch commit. Liftoff. We have liftoff with Apollo 14.
Welcome back to Third Phase of Moon. My name's Blake Cousins, and we're here breaking news this morning about a new update, an exclusive interview with something and someone special. Dr. J, thanks for joining us right here. Who have you gotten for us next?
Oh, Blake, this is one of the most important guests of all time. The pinnacle, a true American hero, a pioneer, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, sixth man on the moon, Apollo 14 astronaut. He came to us courtesy of our good friend, Dr. Roger Lear, and he answered some amazing questions, as all the listeners and the viewers of Third Phase of Moon are going to see. And he answered stuff exclusively to us. Let's hear what he's got to say, Blake.
Well, before we get to the exclusive interview, I wanted to go on some of the behind the scenes of what he spoke about right here at Third Phase of Moon in regards to, I remember asking him about NASA and what was a protocol if he came across extraterrestrial life. And his question was quite profound and surprising. Do you remember what he said, Dr. J?
Dr. Mitchell said there was no protocol that he was aware of with regards to extraterrestrial life and anything on the moon, which is actually a big observation with regards to NASA. Do they have a conspiracy where they don't even tell their own astronauts?
Well, that's what exactly the question I asked Edgar Mitchell, because I wanted to find out about the answer behind that. And apparently you're exactly right, Dr. J, that NASA is dropping the ball, because if they're not training their own astronauts to look for extraterrestrial life, the guys on the front lines, then what are they doing?
I don't know this, but let me tell you of this was an article in New York Times that appeared in the 80s about the military space program and how it was canceled. It was a multi-billion-dollar military space program, which they admit to canceling. Well, wait a minute. When was there a military space program, and why weren't we aware of it? Obviously, there was a secret one, so I'm guessing they probably had the protocols. The NASA might have been the front for everybody, for us to keep us happy, and they were probably kept out of the loop. That's my guess.
Well, now to the 7-minute exclusive interview, just the part that we're sharing right here live of the Edgar Mitchell sixth man on the moon, officially right here at Third Phase of Moon. Now let's get to it right now. Let me ask you this. It's been over 40 years since we've been to the moon. Obama says we're going to be going back. NASA's working on it. It's still taking a while. Would you ever consider, if it gets easier to go to the moon, to go back and visit it again?
Well, this is a little side story that kind of goes around with an amusing little anecdote. You remember when John Glenn went back into space after he'd had his early flight, and he'd been a senator and he'd been very prominent, and he went back into space at 77 years old. Now, I was only about 65 at that time. So John and all those guys, the early guys, were just a few years older than me. However, we sat on some boards together up at the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation. And one day over lunch a few years ago, I had lunch with John at the same table. And I said, John, there's a little story about it that you haven't heard, and I'll tell you. I said, when you went back into space, people started asking me, well, Edgar, don't you want to go back into space? And I said, well, of course, but I'm going to wait till I'm 100. John was only 77. Wait till I'm 100, beat John's record. That was a little humorous remark about all that many years.
Wow, we'd still look forward to seeing you explore the frontiers out there. Absolutely amazing. John?
Yes, there's a law, a federal law, that prohibits extraterrestrial contact, and I believe it was created by NASA, and the penalties could range as high as either a 5 to 10 year imprisonment plus a $10,000 fine. And there's also a staffer, a NASA staffer, that came out and said that her job is to airbrush photos of the moon, Mars, and other planetary bodies taken by NASA, and airbrush out things like pyramids or other structures. What do you say with regards to the law? I mean, if they say there's no contact.
I'm not familiar with any of that, so I can't answer your question.
Certainly. What did you experience when you arrived on the moon? What did it feel like? Just tell us some of the detail in your way of what it's like to be on the moon.
Oh, sure. Well, let me point out that we had practiced and practiced and practiced. There wasn't anything really unfamiliar to us that we hadn't done 100 times or more in the training areas at Cape Kennedy. So, and being well-qualified test pilots and all of us military pilots during at least either World War II, the Korean War, and then even later into the Vietnamese War, we were all pretty well-qualified pilots. So going to the moon was just, I won't say it's a routine chore, but we tried to make it that by being so well-prepared that nothing was really new, but it was new and exciting, except we were so well-prepared that we went through the task one by one, like we've been doing them all our lives. And so, yes, it was exciting. We enjoyed it. We did a good job, but we certainly were well-prepared because that's what we had trained on for a year or so before the flight.
Coming back from the moon, and then with all your experience, and now all your studies into the phenomenon of possible extraterrestrial existence, what would you have to say to our third phase of moon viewers about, possible, finally, disclosure that we are not alone in the universe? Do you think it'll ever happen?
Of course. Sure, it will happen because we're not alone in the universe. And the folks, and they are very high-level folks, not just in our country, but everywhere. I think it's called a cabal that of civilian people and perhaps governments that have tried very hard to keep this from becoming a talking point among the people, but it's becoming that anyhow, because the knowledge is out. Well-educated people are accepting the fact, the evidence. I don't want to say the fact, the evidence that said we've been visited, and I think some of the strongest evidence is that our missile silos that carried intercontinental missiles over the years between the 40s and the 60s were routinely visited by alien spacecraft, and the missiles disarmed. And most people know that. They were doing a great deal of effort to keep us from killing ourselves and each other at that level.
Gordon Cooper was a very big person who spoke about this. He even wrote a letter to the United Nations, and God bless his soul, he passed away. And I bet if he were here today, he would have also testified at the citizen hearing as yourself did.
I know he would, because Gordon and I served on Apollo 10 together. I knew him very, very well, and yes, we would agree on these points.
He saw a few objects once on Edwards Air Force Base when he was filming.
He was a duty officer out at Edwards, and a UFO landed out there. He got pictures of it, sent it off to Washington, and never heard about it again.
Yes, he was talking about that story, then also seeing him in Germany, but he says he never saw anything on a space mission. But he says others have. I believe he said others have, and then there have been a few programs that have stated.
There have been some sightings. I'm not familiar with all of them from the Skylab missions, not on the Apollo missions, but from the Skylab missions. We have some pictures and things, some sightings from that, but I know of none on the Apollo missions.
But there were on the others. That was that question I was asking you. So you've known other astronauts to see stuff. Not on the Apollo, but on other missions. Yes,
the sketchy stuff. I don't know it in great detail or great measure, but I know that they have been sighted.
Absolutely incredible and amazing new information coming from Edgar Mitchell in regards to Area 51. When we asked him the straight up question, has he been there? Stay tuned for more insight from the man who walked on the moon. Dr. J, incredible interview. Thanks for all your correspondence. And if anybody out there has captured anything amazing in regards to UFOs, contact us via Skype or Facebook. My name's Blake Cousins, and we'll see everybody again next time.
Days of moon.